Today, we're going to talk about stage 12, the final completion of this full transformation process, the stage right before we start it all over again in some other way, shape, or form. Remember that this process is not a linear process. It is a quantum, it is a non-linear, it is a cyclical, it is a cycle rather than from beginning to end. So as we're going through this cycle, as we're going through the process, we want to acknowledge each one of the steps along this cycle so that the next time that it comes back around, we can really appreciate and value and own each different step along this cycle, each different component in this cycle, because each different component builds upon the other ones. And it's kind of like a spiral. Whenever we go around once, we can come back at either a higher level of functionality if we have a better relationship with each one of these curves, each one of these turns, or when the more and more stress that we take on and we lock in and the more resistance that we build up, as this starts to come back around, we will be spiraling downwards into less and less functionality, less and less openness. So remember, this is a coming back around type of process, and we have the ability to come back around higher and better, or we have the ability to come back around lower and more dysfunctional. It's totally and completely up to us what we choose, and it is a choice. And the choice is, I will move into this, I will embrace this, or I will resist this and I will fight this. Those are the only two choices that we have. And remember that the vast majority of the decisions that we make in our life are actually made subconsciously. The vast majority of the information that we are processing is being processed below the level of our awareness. And so, because that information is being processed below the level of our awareness, it's not always a conscious choice that we make to resist something or to lean into it and go with the flow. But the more and more we embrace each one of these, the nuances to these different stages, these different parts of this cycle, the more and more parts of ourselves that we embrace, the more light we can shed on the subconscious, on the unconscious, and make that sub or unconscious, bring it up to the area that we can be aware of it, making the unconscious conscious, bringing bringing light to the darkness, which this is what it's all about, making sure that we are consciously aware and in relationship with each little part of ourselves as an individual, but also as a collective and as a whole. So the more and more we can do that, the more we can make conscious choices. The less we do that, the more we're going to be driven by circumstances and instincts and subconscious habits and programming and all this other stuff. The more and more we allow ourselves to be victimized rather than being responsible. And again, responsibility is the ability to respond, which takes both information and energy or potential to do something with that information. So today in stage 12 is the culmination of this one go round. It is community. We've already gotten to the place, moved through the stages where we've recognized there is a problem, there's a cause for a problem, there's a responsibility that we need to take for a problem, there is a line drawn in the sand. I'm no longer going to allow this continue. Come hell or high water, I'm moving forward, moving into embracing all the different bits and pieces of us, moving into being ready to let go of the habit of acting as a fractured, individualized bits and pieces and moving into a more whole being, dropping into the emptiness of experiencing that wholeness, moving into the light that's behind the form, what's really going on in this wholeness, moving into the experience of the larger wholeness, taking that experience, bringing it back down into the illusion of individuality, sharing our gifts that we have to that illusion of individuality. And finally, stage 12, community, experiencing the full interconnected wholeness of everything, experiencing the perfection of the relationship between all of the individual parts as a whole, as a collection. And this sounds really, really nice. But at this level, we've already experienced those parts of ourselves that we have rejected, that we have made bad, that we have made the villain. And as those parts of us that we have rejected start to lash out and scream out because they're in need, because they are suffering, because they're isolated and they're lonely, and that creates the problems within ourselves, that then we try to find some sort of villain to blame for these different problems, and ultimately come to the point where we're ready to pick up being the hero, to solve these problems, to bring all of that together. When we've experienced that within ourselves and really owned that in stage 2, 3, 4, and 5, 12 is the culmination, the combining of all those together to experience that for the whole of existence. So how many times in our lives have we received a gift from something or someone, and that gift was received as pain or as wounding? How many times in our lives did we have these circumstances growing up that at the time we thought damaged us, but really, if we take inventory, without those experiences, we wouldn't be where we are? How many times in our life do we blame the situations that we're in? Do we blame the thoughts and feelings that we have, that we blame the people around us for not acting in the way that we think they should? And in reality, all of those things are giving us gifts in maybe painful ways. But if we have the feeling of depression, that feeling of depression in our life is the gift that shakes us up and says, wake up to who you truly are. And without that, if we just had the comfort, we would never move beyond who we're acting like and who we are being right here and right now. The gift and anxiety, the gift of these governmental structures, which are controlling our lives more so than they should, inspires us to look around and go, wow, where am I not taking my sovereignty seriously? Where am I not taking my responsibility seriously? And now is the time to be more. And that wouldn't happen if those governmental agencies or societal entities were not taking advantage of the power that we are constantly giving away. So stage 12 in community, we are recognizing how each individual part or piece plays its perfect note in the symphony of the whole, of what's being created right here and right now. The beauty, the perfection of right here and right now would not be possible without every single individual piece and person and circumstance and scenario. We all want to share our gifts. We all want to receive our gifts, but are we seeing everything that we're giving? Are we seeing everything that we are, have, and will receive? Are we seeing that as the gift that it actually is? Maybe that gift is a big pile of crap so that you can use that for fertilizer for future growth. But there's a big difference between being offended and being wounded by that pile of crap compared to seeing the potential that's in that crap. It's never going to smell like roses. It's never going to taste good as we take it in. But it is in our lives and it is in existence for a particular purpose. Are we as a being so connected, so fueled, so super energy rich that we can see it for what it is, which is a piece that makes up the whole? The whole would not be whole. It would not be complete without that piece, regardless of what our lower mind and our instinctual brain wants to judge or say about that piece. Okay, so in today's exercise, we're actually going to combine two different exercises. We're going to combine a chakra meditation, because each one of these quote unquote energy centers, they are hubs, they are parts of our body where our nervous system comes together in what's called a plexus. And each one of these plexus, each one of these hubs of nerve fibers, of nervous tissue cells, processes its information in a very, very unique way. And with each one of these centers processing information totally and completely uniquely and differently, we can combine all of that information processing to get much, much more of a clear picture of the whole. But if each one of these centers are trying to be like another one, if one of these centers is saying, oh, this other center is not processing like I think it should, it's not processing like I am, therefore there's something wrong with it, I need to go ahead and hog this information and process it in my unique way, we're not going to be able to get that big picture. We're not going to be able to have the multiple perspectives. We're not going to be able to have the efficient functionality of our body, so we're not wasting energy and we can truly get into those energy rich states. So stage 12 is about the community all working together, honoring the individual to honor the whole, which honors the individual, which honors the whole. And it's this cycle around and around and around and around, where the whole is neither more nor less important than the individual piece or part. The whole is not any more sacred than the individual piece and part. And the individual piece and part is not more important or takes priority over the whole, but in reality is symbiotic, is one with the whole. So this is a perfect Easter message. Happy Easter to everyone. It has been brought up many times, and it's in one of the chats, is we can't have an Easter, we can't have a celebration of resurrection, of rebirth, of transformation into a higher level of being unless we're able to embrace the trials and the pain and the passion that goes along with the dying and the death process of the old self. And again, a lot of the experiences in our lives are there to help us with the dying process. And if we can die before our actual physical death, like we talked about before, it's so much easier, it's so much more joyful, it's so much juicier to be able to go through life and living in the moment and celebrating everything, the resurrection and the death, the coming into a new state of being and the crucifixion. So this is a perfect way to celebrate Easter, which is the community all individuals, all circumstances, all people, all institutions, all places, all times, all of it coming together in one harmonious, glorious symphony. So we're going to go ahead and start off with a little bit of connecting to each one of these individual, what are called chakras, what are called nadis, which we have a lot of them throughout the body. We're just going to kind of play around with some of the main ones out of one tradition. Different traditions have different numbers for them. So it's really not important that we're actually getting this perfect, but what's important is that we're focused on tuning in, connecting from without simultaneously. Okay, so go ahead and find a comfortable position. If you're going to be sitting, go ahead and sit at the very edge of your chair with your sit bones, the bones that you sit on, right at the edge, and your spine completely straight, chin slightly tucked back, shoulders back, heart open, breathing both into the upper ribs and into the lower belly simultaneously. So this area is stretching and opening up. I'm going to recommend that if you are going to sit cross-legged, that you sit with a pillow up underneath your buttocks, your sit bones, so that your legs can kind of drape forward a little bit. If we just sit completely flat, a lot of times we'll kind of cut off the circulation to our legs and create some numbness. You could do this laying down, although I'm really not going to recommend the laying down during this one because it's easier to kind of drift off. We want to be super, super present with this one. We want to be super in tune and in touch and aware and curiously celebrating each different aspect as it fits into the whole. So my recommendation for today would be to sit at the edge of your chair with your knees bent about 90 degrees, palms in your lap, ideally facing up. But if that's not comfortable, it's not a big deal. Okay, so as we're sitting here, the first place that we're going to focus on, the first center that we're going to focus on, is we're going to be focusing right at our root, right at the very, very bottom of our pelvis, right in between our legs, at the very bottom of our pelvis. Okay, the most bottom and most center point on our trunk. This is called the perineum. Feeling the space that perineum takes up, feeling the space around the body, all of the space around the body, how much space does the very bottom of the pelvis take up? As we're focusing on that location, experiencing the color red. The red space around the pelvis, the red space that perineum takes up in that space around the pelvis. And as we're focusing on this area, breathing in the nose and out the mouth, seeing that color red, we're going to feel the sound, the vibration of lum, lum, lum. Repeat that sound in your mind as you stay focused on feeling the bottom of the pelvis in that red color. Feeling the sound, feeling the tone, repeating it in your mind's eye. Lum, lum, lum. In the nose, out the mouth, red bottom of the pelvis, lum. Now moving to about an inch below the belly button, about an inch behind the belly button. Feel the space behind and right below the belly button. Feel the space around the body at the level of the belly button. How much space does the body, an inch below and an inch behind the belly button, how much space does that take up in the space around the body? Imagine that space as orange. Orange, belly button. As we're experiencing that orange space around the body at the level of the belly button, and we're experiencing the space right below and behind the belly button, we're going to experience the vibration or the sound of VUM. 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 Repeating that over and over and over in the mind's eye, feeling that vibration in the space around our body, in the space, that orange space that below and behind the belly button takes up with the sound VUM, with the tone VUM, with the vibration and frequency VUM. Now we're going to move behind the solar plexus. We're going to experience that space about an inch inside behind the skin. Feel the space around the body at the level of the solar plexus. Experience that yellow space around the body. Experience how much space do the solar plexus take up of that space around the body. That yellow space around and within, feeling that connection, feeling that flow, feeling that location, and experiencing the sound rum, rum, rum. Feel the vibration. Repeat that sound again and again, over and over in the mind's eye, silently in the head, while we're feeling that space around the solar plexus and the space the solar plexus takes up, and the vibration, the tone, the frequency of rum, rum, rum. Experiencing the solar plexus vibrating with that sound, with that frequency, with that tone. Experiencing the yellow in the vibration. Feel, see, imagine rum vibrating throughout that yellow space. Vibrating the yellow space. Now we're going to move up to the heart center, right in the center of the chest, experiencing the green space around the chest, outside the body, experiencing how much of that space is taken up by the heart center inside the body, that green heart center. Experiencing that green space around the chest, that green space of the heart center inside that space. Feel the vibration, experience the tone of yum, yum, yum. Repeating over and over in that green vibrational space around the heart center and inside the body. Yum, yum, yum. Breathing in the nose and out the mouth, moving into the throat, experiencing how much space is around the body at the level of the throat? How much blue space can we be aware of around the level of the throat? And how much blue space does the inside of the throat take up within that space around the body? Experiencing the blue space around, the blue space within, experiencing that space vibrating or resonating in the tone of hum, hum, hum. Feel that vibration. Repeat that sound silently in the head, in the mind's eye, but feel that sound. Feel the reverberation of that tone in the blue space around the throat and the blue space within the throat. How much of that space within the throat experiencing the tone of hum, hum, hum. Now moving up into the space at the very, very center of the bottom of the skull, right between the eyebrows and the very, very back of the bottom of the skull, experiencing that indigo purple space around the body at the level of the skull, the level of the inside of the head. How much space does the bottom middle of the skull take up? How much indigo violet space is within in relationship to the space outside the body? That purple indigo space all around the body at the level of the very bottom of the inside of the skull. Experiencing that purple space vibrating with the tone or the frequency of shum, 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 shum. Repeating that vibration again and again in the mind's eye, feeling the interconnectedness, the space all around the bottom of the skull. How much space is taken up by the space within the inside of the bottom of the skull? Feel that purple indigo space vibrating with the tone of shum, shum, shum. And moving up to the very, very top of the head, the space halfway inside the skull, halfway outside the skull, about an inch in and about an inch out. How much space around the body can you be aware of at the level of the very top of the skull? How much space does about 1 inch inside and about 1 inch outside the very top of the skull take up? How much of that white, pure white light space can you be aware of around the very top of the skull, within and around the inside of the top of the skull? Feel that bright white space vibrating at the frequency or the tone of Om, Om, Om. Feel, imagine, see that vibration rippling through and within and around and without that space, that bright white space at the very top of the skull, in the mind, silently on the inside, continuing to repeat the vibration, the sound, the tone, Om, Om. Om. Now experiencing the space all around the entire body. Experiencing the space, how much space outside the body can we be aware of? Feeling each one of those centers all together, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, white, feeling all of those spaces within the body. How much space does each one of those centers take up in relation to the other centers? How much of the space around the body can we experience is taken up by each one of those centers? Bottom of the perineum, behind the belly button, solar plexus, heart center, throat center, in the middle of the bottom of the skull, in the middle at the very top of the skull. Feel each one of those centers vibrating. Lum, Vam, Ram, Yum, Hum, Shum, Om. And now go along with me. Very bottom, root red, Lum. Again, Lum. Again, Lum. Right behind the belly button, orange, Vum. Again, Vum. Feel it, Vum. Right at the solar plexus, the yellow, Rum. Again, Rum. Again, Rum. Now the green heart center, Yum. Again, Yum. Feel it, Yum. Now the blue throat center, Hum. Again, Hum. Feel it and see it, Hum. Now the purple third eye center, Shum. Again, Shum. One more time, Shum. And the very top crown, white, Om. Draw this one out again, Om. One more time, Om. Feeling the space around the body, experiencing all of the colors together in that one Om. Feeling, seeing, imagining all of that bright white light like it's coming through a prism and it's being scattered out as each one of the individual colors all together. All of those colors could come back in a different prism and be turned right back into white. So whites and the colors are synonymous. They are one part of the same whole. Breathing in the nose and out the mouth. Moving into stage 12, we're going to stand for stage 12. We're going to be breathing in the nose and out the mouth. And we're going to start this process reaching up to the heavens, to where all of that culmination, the very beginning of time flowing into the very end of time, the Big Bang expanding out, coming back together in the big collapse, the inhale of the universe and existence, the exhale coming back together, feeling the entire process, reaching up as if each one of your fingers is attached to a bungee cord that's being pulled upwards by different universes, by different dimensions, by different galaxies, by different stars, by different versions of you, by different experiences, by different angels, whichever one gives you the most amount of energy and light and love and excitement. As we're reaching with our fingers, the upper portion of our chest is lifting up. The head is rocking back a little bit, so the throat opens up, but the chin is staying tucked. So our spine is very, very straight. As a matter of fact, it's going into a slight arch, opening the heart, breathing into the top of the ribs and the bottom of the belly at the same time, opening up, squeezing the shoulder blades together, breathing in and reaching up, reaching up, reaching up. And as we breathe in, we're going to gather all of that like we're holding a cylinder or a column above our head. And we're going to pull all of that light and that love into the very top center, that crown center. We're going to flow that into our third eye. We're going to flow that down the front of our face into our throat, into our heart center, right between our heart center and our solar plexus. We're going to exhale, and as we exhale, we're going to make the sound, whatever sound feels right and natural at this moment. We're going to exhale, and we're going to push all of that through the solar plexus center, through the belly button center, through down in between the legs and down the bottom of the legs as we inhale all the way down, touching the floor, our hands as close to the floor as we can get them, touching the earth, inhaling, gathering up in the nose, sliding the hands back up the legs, in between the legs to touch that root center, sliding the hands up to touch the belly button, to touch the solar plexus, to touch the heart center. And as we come up to the heart center, again, we're going to exhale and we're going to make that sound as we push it up through the throat, across the face, into the third eye, to the very top of the head, and pushing it with that sound out into the universe, connecting to all of those different places and times and spaces and beings, and inhaling, grabbing that column of bright white light back down to the crown, to each one of these centers, exhaling, making the sound as we push it down the front of the body, all the way to the floor, sliding the palms and the fingers as close to the floor and the ground as we can, inhaling, grabbing from the center of the earth and pulling back up through the legs, up to the very bottom of the root center, through the belly button, through the solar plexus, exhaling, making that sound as we push it up. So it's going to sound and look like this, and you're only going to see the top half of me. So it's going to be inhaling, inhaling, exhaling, whatever sound feels normal and natural to you. In the nose, pulling it down, out the mouth, pushing it down. Pulling it up, in the nose, out the mouth, pushing it up, in the nose, pulling it down through each one of these centers, touching each one of these centers, out the mouth, pushing it all the way down to the earth, pulling from the earth, inhaling in the nose, back up, exhaling, making the sound. What sound is right for you? Is it the sound of relief? Is it the sound of anger? Is it the sound of frustration? Let the sound change. Let the tone change. Let yourself flow with all that is. All of it is important. All of it is necessary at the right time and at the right place. Keep going, pulling down, pulling up, touching each one of those centers, in the nose, out the mouth, in the nose, out the mouth, in the nose, out the mouth, really feeling the pulling, really feeling being pulled on from the very, very upper portion of the galaxy, from the earth center and all of the stars are pulling you in both directions, and you are pushing into both directions. Feel that simultaneous, harmonious, balanced pull and push. In the nose, out the mouth. In the nose, make the sound. In the nose, make the sound. In the nose, make the sound. In the nose, pulling in. Out the mouth, pushing out. In the nose, pulling up. Out the mouth, pushing up. In the nose, pulling down. Out the mouth, pushing down. In the nose, pulling up. But keep going. Feel the rhythm of this. Keep going. Keep going. Feel the pull from the outside in all directions. Feel yourself pushing in all directions to the outside. Allow the body to build up this tension. Allow the body to be pushed and pulled simultaneously. In the nose, out the mouth, make the sound. In the nose, make the sound. Out the mouth. Right where the solar plexus turns into the heart center, that's where the breath changes. That's where the sound starts to come out. Pushing from that point down, pulling up, pushing up, pulling down, pushing down. In the nose, out the mouth. In the nose, out the mouth. Keep going, keep going. Really develop the rhythm with this, all the way to the root of the earth, reaching up all the way to the other side of the galaxy. Feeling the pushing and the pulling, feeling the ebb and flow, feeling the connectedness of all forces, all individuals, all beings, all times, all places, all circumstances. Feeling the whole, allowing the body to take over this rhythm. Keep going. We're almost there, touching each one of the centers, being aware of each one of the centers suspended between that push pull, totally balanced, totally at peace, totally at ease, totally energized, totally giving it all you got, totally receiving all that there is, in and out and in and out. And keep going, making the noises, noticing how the noises change, noticing, allowing, being, flowing. In the nose, make the sound. Out the mouth. In the nose, make the sound. Out the mouth. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. And when you're ready, let it all go. Stand. Arms relaxed by the side. Chest out and open. Chin tucked back. Throat out and open. Pelvis bone, root, feeling, drawing from the very, very bottom, as if there's a string attached to the very top of the head, pulling to the other side of the universe, a string attached to the heart center, pulling to the other side of the universe. That connection from the belly button all the way through the floor to the core of the earth, allowing the body to be suspended between the pushing out of the atoms from the inside and the compression of gravity and all of the forces of creation from the outside, totally suspended, floating in that perfect balance of push-pull, compression, expansion, spiraling outwards, spiraling inwards, all simultaneously as one. Feeling the interconnectedness that we each have with everything and everyone. Experiencing the flow of life, spiraling in an infinite spiral, continuing on infinitely, from no beginning to no end, from all beginning to all end. And when you're ready, come back into the room, come back into the body, wiggle the toes, wiggle the fingers, wiggle the shoulders, and come on back to the computer. Going to open up everyone to allow them to talk. And if you would, please ask a question, share an experience. You can unmute yourself, you can type it into the chat, and I'll read it, whichever is best for you. Sound like there's some peacefully at ease with allness going on out there. If I can read into some of those ha's that are going on. So does anybody have a question? Does anybody have a comment? Does anyone want to share? You can unmute yourself and just start talking. Chelsea, you've got something. I'm going to unmute you.
That it was super intense for me.
Good.
So Sean, like, I was like in the height of it, and Sean came in like, "Are you okay, babe? What's going on?" And I'm like, "Don't worry." So I was a little interrupted right there towards the end.
No, you weren't interrupted. You were connecting to the allness.
I was, yes.
Inside and outside.
Totally. So one thing that keeps coming up for me is the so I had a natural childbirth with both my kids, and I think that's what started kind of my spiritual awakening. And
one of the few initiation rites and rituals and processes that we have in our society.
Yes. And I didn't know what I was in for at all, but
nobody does.
Oh yeah. The oming at the end was because luckily I had a wonderful doula and I omed through my entire birth with Anna. So I just think that it just brought me there.
Yes.
I'm feeling it all right now.
Good. Just flow with it. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah. And wow, how amazingly brave and courageous and powerful you are to be able to go through that initiation rite of natural childbirth. That is amazing. We are all in awe of you.
I have a question, Tad.
Yes.
Okay, like getting towards the end, someone that I rarely think about came to my mind, and it's like, well, I'm distracting myself. But then I thought, well, maybe I'm supposed to be connecting to her. So which was it, or was it both? I was distracting
if you are just being, and something comes into your awareness, it's coming into your awareness for a reason. And this stage is really experiencing the interconnectedness between everything. So these thoughts and these feelings and these memories and these experiences that pop into our awareness, they're there to be connected with. It's not, you weren't doing anything wrong. It's just being with that experience of interconnectedness and wherever our focus goes.
Okay, so maybe I was supposed to be connecting with her at this particular moment.
Absolutely. When that energy flows, the right information will be called into fruition, will be enacted upon.
Okay. So. All right. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Tad.
Yes.
It was very interesting. We're on the front porch, and so We are outside enjoying the beautiful sunshine, but we're also
We're in
visible
Texas, y'all.
in Texas. Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know what it's like over there, but it's puffy clouds and blue skies
And wildflowers and
wildflowers and green
birds.
leaves over there, but it's also out in the open. And what that came to me as I was doing it was I was intensely aware of being exposed, of being, seen, of not being free to even complete the exercise. But as I allowed that, brought that on in, it made me so much aware of that I needed to let go of it's not okay to be me. I needed to let go of that. And just like we had talked about, wanting our observer to be somewhere other than what it was. Donnie said something that I thought was very good, and Kathy brought it up over there, that if the observer is behind you, that's as an external, that's as far as you can go.
Yep.
And so
As
ultimately,
energy draining as you could be.
right. But as they did the exercise over there, and as I allowed the energy to come in and allowed the energy to escalate over there, wow, the observer was way out there looking down and saying, you can let go of that. You can let go of that image, that imaga, that whatever that you have over there, and you're not meant to be there anymore. And so it was very, very, very freeing. And by golly, the observer got out from behind me.
Yes.
Didn't have to do anything but raise energy.
No, you just going through this process and opening up to that awareness, that's what raises the energy. But that's the big takeaway, is that if we are not fully authentic, if we are not free to be our authentic selves, if we are a distorted version of ourselves, then we are creating a distorted whole, because the whole is not complete without authentic individual parts. If we are not accepting of others as they are, where they are, we're creating a distorted whole, because the whole would not be complete without them being on their journey, on their process at that point when and where they actually are expressing what they actually are. It may be painful, it may be no fun, but it is in and of itself perfect. And the more and more we can celebrate that perfection, not making ourselves martyrs, not taking the abuse, but the more and more we celebrate the perfection of ourselves and celebrating the perfection of others, the more we're celebrating the whole, and the more perfect we're going to be able to experience the whole. So thank you so much for that. And yes, thank you for just being you. Rachel, you had your hand up.
Physically, it was like at the end, when I was resting and standing, my body just went into a wave where it was a channel. Like I felt just like I was just, well, there was no I, just an electromagnetic fiber.
Yeah.
Yeah, like almost levitating. And then my brain has been, I guess, rewiring, playing the piano. I'm like listening to all the stories that each note is dreaming and to play. And then I witness my fingers dancing and just experience the fun of it all.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, that is the wholeness experiencing the fingers dancing with the notes and experiencing everything that's involved with that process. So yes, that's definitely much more of the stage 12 experience. Anybody else? Any thoughts, any questions, any experiences? Amy says that when we went to each energy center with the sound, she felt such a buildup of energy that area quivered and moved. Yes, Amy, that is exactly the experience that we want to have, to recognize that it's all vibration. And whenever we are able to experience a sound that's in harmony, that kind of builds with those areas, we can increase that resonance, increase that frequency whenever we're able to entrain the sounds of those different areas. Okay, so let's see, PJ. Oh, here we go. I'm going to unmute you. There we go. PJ, what you got?
I was, I don't know how to say that. The colors were incredible for me. The expansion of all of the colors from outside my body to far, far, far reaching. But what was very interesting is that in my process that I'm working right now, there was one of the chakras that was not as expansive and was more like, here we go, more like a box. And it was very interesting to me because that was good information. That was good information for me.
Good.
And I found myself opening up as if I was at one of Donnie's sessions with my body just going back, and my chest going out. And I really feel that you were looking for ideas to go forward in your seeds of life. I really feel like having something relative to chakras would be very powerful as you go forward, an occasional one or whatever, because I think we forget about that. We forget about the power of that and how it takes you to your core. So thank you.
Thank you, PJ, and I will definitely make a note of that, and we can absolutely have one at some point in the future where we go into a lot more detail about what the chakras are and how they process information differently and how to connect and to love each one. So thank you so much for that comment. Amory, whoops, I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you here. Amory, what you got?
So I had a very similar experience to PJ in that I had a couple of chakras that were real tight. They weren't very expansive at all. They did loosen up a little bit toward the end, but the ones that weren't tight were pretty much filled the room, except for the crown chakra was, I couldn't really even find the edges on that one. It was so expansive. Yeah, that felt really loving and wonderful. It felt really connected.
Good.
And then the sounds, when we were making the sounds at the end, doing the up down thing, it started out really kind of painful and gross, and by the end it was just blissful, the sounds coming out of me. And when we were standing there still, I felt like I was on a spiral. I'm not sure if my body was physically moving or if it was just I don't know. I don't know if it was physically or just energetically. I'm not sure.
Well, they are the same thing.
But it felt like I was just kind of on a spiral, kind of floating. Like there was just a rod through me and just kind of spinning on it. It was very interesting.
Awesome. Congratulations and thank you for allowing yourself to flow through with that sound as we go through these exercises, because we are one connected whole. I'm going to repeat this again and again. When we do this for our physical selves, we are doing it for all of humanity simultaneously. So thank you so much for that gift that you gave us all, Amory.
Thank you.
All right, Tasha says she felt like it was a great church service coming together in prayer for all of Easter Sunday. I found that extremely synchronistic, Tasha, that stage 12, the way that we are doing it ended up on Easter Sunday. That was not planned out by me. Much, much higher source than me, obviously. So Tasha also says what PJ said about the chakras and sounds and feelings. I got that, and I will make sure that we have some sort of more in-depth conversation about that in the future. All right, Barbara, Barbara, I cannot unmute you. You're going to have to unmute you. There you go. You got it. What you got? Yes.
Okay. Well, today my experience, and since yesterday, it's like more settled, just in general. I've been like, I even woke up later today, which is unusual for me, but it's good. Allowing myself, giving myself more permission to different areas. The subtle part comes from my memory. Even today, when you were making the sounds of the chakras, actually I could remember what you were saying, which so many times I feel like, what? And then I go like, I feel like in the cartoons, right? All confused. So, and the other subtle part was like, this morning I was writing, and I was writing, it was like very inspirational, like with no thinking. I was just writing, and it come up, just flowing, which it was very good for me too, like no thinking. And the
Yes.
second part, I say to in terms of when we're doing the exercise, I feel like the rhythm, like it, I, and again, I don't even know how to describe it right now, like really, but I felt more like settled. I don't know, like if it was more spacey or more.
Yes. And that's really what you need, Barbara, as an external being. That spaciness is how you know that you're getting into those higher energy states.
Okay, that's why, because I'm like, I don't even know how to say this.
Yep.
Okay.
You don't even need to. We would call that expansive, but that spaciness, that is you connecting to the flow that you receive energy the most efficiently.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Ta.
Thank you. Anybody else? Raise your hand or write it in the comments. Not looking like it. Well, thank you. Oh, we got one more. Okay, go for it. Oh, Kathy.
No, that's the same.
Yeah, hey.
Yeah. Hey. I want to tell Barbara, thank you over there. I need to hear more words to be able to comprehend things. And it's a synchronicity that came up. The word came up subtle yesterday in some of my pod. And it was I was appreciated her bringing up the word subtle and describing it. It sounded like subtle to her meant effortless or felt like effortless. And was not a word that was coming out. So that would make sense as to the word. So thank you, Barbara, for bringing that up, and thank you, Tad, for orchestrating this. That helps me to see what subtle means.
Yes. And this is, again, whenever we are sharing like this, when we're communicating like this, we are using everyone's brains, everyone's chakras to process this information. And so there's so much more interconnectedness. There's so much more wholeness whenever we do these things, because one little thing that we say or do, even though we may not even recognize it, can spark something in somebody else. So thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Sandy, very much for sharing.
I just want to add that brings to mind like how my adjustments have changed over the last couple of years with you. And that they're a lot more subtle or effortless now. And making that connection between the two, like hearing what Barbara said and then Sandy, what you just had to say, kind of like made it all click for me, because I always have this tendency in everything that I do to go really hard.
Yes.
And so when I don't have those like hard experiences, that I'm like, damn, I'm not doing it right. And so that's just nice to kind of hear that connection, because it helps me shift my perspective in that, because that's a hard one that I've been stuck in for a long time.
Yes. And we all have this addiction to energy neutral. We all have, in some way, shape, or form, the addiction to effort and the addiction to pain as being the normal. If it's not hard, if we didn't sacrifice, if we didn't bleed and sweat, then it's not, and then it's not enough, or we're not worthy, or whatever, all the other crazy things that our survival centers will try to convince us of, to keep us in that same identity, that same individualized perspective that we have gotten used to and addicted to. So it's a fascinating exercise to really be super aware of how many times throughout the day that we discount and we discredit the natural flow of things. So thank you so much. Amory, we are so grateful to have you be part of this community. We're so grateful to be in community with you. I'm so grateful to be in community with all of you. Thank you so much. Happy Easter. Barbara says, thank you, Sandy, because I also feel like I needed to say more, and sometimes one word is not enough. Sometimes one word is not enough, but all of the different ways that that one word can be interpreted and formulated, that is plenty. So there's a big difference between what we say and what is heard. And Kathy also says, yes, Connie, exuberant comes to mind, and subtle is harder to think of in description. It absolutely is. And subtle can be extremely powerful, but it does take away our illusion of me doing it all. So thanks to everybody that joined. We love you guys. Happy Easter, and we will see you.
PJ's hand is up.
Oh, PJ's hand is up. Oh, okay, PJ, go for it.
I just wanted to just say, as we leave each other, may the chakras be with you.
Yes, and also with you, PJ. All right, love you guys.
Love you all. Thank
See you soon.